We have a lot to talk about. We got to talk about Colin Kaepernick and the NFL. And it looks like Colin Kaepernick is being blackballed for the stance that he has taken against the National Anthem and against police brutality, racism, things like this by protesting against the National Anthem. We're going to talk about that today. Colin Kaepernick is being punished by the NFL for standing up for black people. He's being blackballed, but some people say he's being whiteballed. You could make the case he's being whiteballed. Okay, we'll talk about that. There was an interesting article from Huffington Post Black Voices about this. Kaepernick's situation proves America still seeks to punish black protesters. Kaepernick's situation proves America still seeks to punish black protesters. We have to talk about that. Then you have this crazy story of a black Uber driver who was threatened with rape charges by a lying female passenger. Now, there's an update to this story. It appears she's Hispanic. It's a crazy, crazy story. Luckily, this brother recorded the video. Luckily, he recorded the incident with his cell phone, so he could document what happened. He had evidence, because if he did not have that video, he probably would have been fired by Uber, and some other things could have happened as well. Okay, so we're going to talk about that story, crazy story. Then there was this study, and I saw this talked about on News One Now with Roland Martin. NBC News has an article about this as well. But this deals with the cost of segregation. And a new study shows the financial impact of segregation on America. It is literally costing America billions of dollars, and it also contributes to the murder rate as well. And they looked at 100 cities across the U.S. Chicago was one of them. We're going to talk about this. This is extremely, extremely important, because this deals with how politics ties into every aspect of our life. This deals with how politics ties into every aspect of our life. Remember, politics, two main ways to understand what politics are. Shout out to people on YouTube as well. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources. And politics is the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, treaties, their interpretation, enforcement, and adoption. Okay, so we have to talk about that. And then we know Thursday night, Donald Trump, without going before Congress, launched 59 Tomahawk missiles at Syria. Okay, now it was just in 2013 that he basically begged President Obama on Twitter not to get involved in Syria. This is after 1,400 people in Syria were gassed. Okay, after 1,400. Now here you have a situation, something I think it was like 89 or something like that, were gassed, and he was so emotional he had to take action. All right, but is this a case? People are asking, is this a case of wagging the dog? Is this a case of wagging the dog? Okay, and in the movie Wag the Dog from the late 1990s, a fictional president started a fake war to take attention away from a sex scandal that he was dealing with. Okay, is this a case of wagging the dog? We have to deal with, don't know what that's about. All right. Okay, so historically, black athletes in the U.S., okay, we're back on YouTube. Historically, black voices in the U.S. have always been punished for speaking out against injustice. Historically, black voices in the U.S. have always been punished for speaking out against injustice. Okay, now this article is written by Francis Maxwell. Okay, he's a white male, Francis Maxwell, who is a news personality on the Young Turks TV show, right? News show. So we all know about Muhammad Ali being stripped of his title in 1967 for refusing to be drafted into the Vietnam War, and rightfully so. Muhammad Ali was vilified. Muhammad Ali was vilified because of this, right? Later on in life, when Muhammad Ali was stricken with Parkinson's disease and couldn't talk and fight against white supremacy with his words, when he became non-threatening to white supremacy, then white people started to embrace Muhammad Ali. Many white people who decades before were against Muhammad Ali, when he rightfully took a stand against the Vietnam War and said that no Viet Cong ever called me the N-word, okay? And he said they're just going to use me to make it seem like it's all right for other black people to fight in this war, and they're going to get a lot of other people killed, okay? He said I didn't see a need for me to go and kill another poor people of color on behalf of this nation. In Stokely Carmichael, you had massive protests across the country. African Americans were having massive protests across the country and saying, hell no, we won't go. Hell no, we won't go. And I have a documentary on Ali. It's probably the best documentary you ever see. It's 6 hours. It's called Muhammad Ali, The Whole Story. Muhammad Ali, The Whole Story. It's a 3 DVD set. It's 6 hours. And Stokely Carmichael, back then, around 67, they were having protests. And Stokely Carmichael said, they want Muhammad Ali to go fight in Vietnam for freedom that his people don't even have in Louisville, Kentucky, where he's from. He said they still have segregation, in Louisville, Kentucky. And they want him to go risk his life and fight for America in Vietnam. Okay? So, now Colin Kaepernick remains unsigned for the 2017 NFL season. Okay? And Francis Maxwell asked the question. He says, so what does this tell us? He said, well, some would say that it's because of his performance last year and that he was solely to blame for the train wreck that was the 49ers season. Okay, so he did have a bad season. We know he came back and he had some surgeries, right? Surgeries on the shoulder and some other surgeries. Okay, he wasn't the same. But others have used another excuse, the fact that he is now a vegan. Some people are using the excuse that he's a vegan, and that's why NFL teams aren't picking him up. Okay, but the other reason why, and something that a lot of people don't want to cite openly, was his protests against the National Anthem, his protests against racism and police misconduct by way of the National Anthem. Okay. So the article goes on to say, but when you look past these asinine reasons and consider how the NFL is willing to look the other way when a player kills someone, is accused of sexual assault, or domestically abuses their spouse, you realize the unfortunate but brutal reality that while time has passed and progress has been made, American society still can't handle a prominent black person questioning whether this country lives up to its purported ideas of freedom, equality, and justice for all. So when you really study what Kaepernick was saying, he said, I don't hate America. He said, I'm not against the veterans. Okay, he was talking about America living up to its promise. This is what Dr. King was talking about April 28th, 1963, in the speech that was renamed I Have a Dream. It was renamed I Have a Dream because that's not the original name of that speech. The original name of that speech was called A Cancel Check. And in that speech, if you go to archives.gov and read the text of the speech, don't get caught up in the emotion, read the text of the speech, because the speech was originally supposed to speak for about 4 minutes. He spoke for 16, almost 17 minutes. The majority of the speech he spoke extemporaneously. Okay? Now everybody watching on Facebook, share this broadcast on your own Facebook page. Okay? Invite your friends to tune in because we're dropping some real knowledge today. Okay? As usual, but we normally aren't broadcasting on Saturday, so we're really dropping some knowledge today. All right, so he spoke extemporaneously for most of the time. But what Dr. King was talking about was holding America to its promise. He said 100 years prior to that, America gave Negroes, gave black people a promissory note. Okay? And he said when we went to go cash this promissory note, it was marked insufficient funds. This is why the original name of the speech was called A Cancel Check. He was dealing with economics. So he talked about police brutality in the speech. He talked about how we can't stop, until we end police brutality. He talked about how we can't stop while the Negro in the South can't vote and the Negro in New York feels that he has nothing to vote for. while the Negro in the South can't vote and the Negro in the North has nothing to vote for. He talked about segregation and racism and things like this. He talked about African Americans moving from a smaller ghetto to a larger ghetto. He was directly addressing the conditions that African Americans were dealing with then and pushing America to live up to its promise that it made to African Americans 100 years prior. Emancipation Proclamation, Civil Rights, not Civil Rights, well, you can say Civil Rights Act of 1866 because civil rights did not start with the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Civil rights didn't start with the Montgomery bus boycott, which started December 5th, 1955. Civil rights goes back to 1865 and 1866. Civil Rights Act of 1865 was vetoed by President Andrew Johnson. Civil Rights Act of 1866 is going to pass Congress. He vetoed that one also, but it passed. It is going to go back to Congress. They're going to pass it. And the Civil Rights Act of 1866 laid the foundation for the 14th Amendment of 1868. Okay? So Colin Kaepernick, his protest is in the tradition of Dr. King if you actually research the revolutionary Dr. King, not the emasculated Dr. King that they show you on the television every Dr. King day, not that Dr. King. If you actually study the real Dr. King, because if you read the text of the canceled check, which was later renamed I Have a Dream, that's a powerful speech. And if you want to, you can, I have a DVD lecture that I've done. It's a 2.5-hour presentation. I just did it January of this year. The distortion of the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the revolutionary, will not be televised on the television. The revolutionary will not be televised on the television, okay? All right, now those watching on Facebook Live, hey, we just posted the link here. We just posted the information for our live webinar that we're doing today, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. It's an 8-hour webinar. All the sessions are recorded. You can go back, watch them over and over again. It's only $40 for the course. At the end of the course, you're going to receive my DVD presentation, which is 4.5 hours that I did on the subject also. So you can go ahead and register for that. Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We're doing that 3 p.m. It's a live online course at our online school, and I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation. You can see the visual presentation. We have video clips, all of that. Okay, it's very powerful. All right, so now what's interesting is when Dr. King was assassinated April 4th, 1968, he was the most hated man in America. And after he came out against the Vietnam War, April 4th, 1967, because he was assassinated 1 year to the date that he came out against the Vietnam War, right? When he came out against the Vietnam War, overnight, he became the most hated man in America. Even members in the civil rights movement turned against him because they said you should just deal with civil rights. You shouldn't speak out against the war. Okay, so if Colin Kaepernick had killed somebody or maybe was accused of sexual assault or something like that, maybe he would have a contract. Maybe he would be signed. But that's not the case. And you realize the unfortunate but brutal reality that while time has passed and progress has been made, American society still can't handle a prominent black person questioning whether this country lives up to its purported ideas of freedom, equality, and justice for all. Now, some people say, oh, here we go with this white privilege crap. The man disrespected the flag that represents this nation and the freedom of white men to sexually harass women and get rewarded with $11 million bonuses and even the presidency. So you see a direct contrast, right, between the treatment of Bill O'Reilly, who Bill O'Reilly and Fox News had to pay out $13 million to settle sexual harassment lawsuits, okay? And they're being investigated. They were being, this stuff and also Preet Bharara, this stuff and also the Roger Ailes sexual harassment lawsuits, because Roger Ailes was the founder of the Fox News Network, and he was the chairman. He got pushed out of Fox News because of this, because of sexual harassment lawsuits also. This was being investigated by U.S. attorney from Manhattan, Preet Bharara. Preet Bharara got fired by Donald Trump. Trump Towers was in Preet Bharara's district, in his jurisdiction. This stuff is deep. Okay, and if you listen to our show, we've been reporting on this. You can listen to you can go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and you can listen to the podcast. We have 700 podcasted episodes of our show. Okay, so when you look at the treatment of Bill O'Reilly, right? So we talked about this a couple of days ago on the show. We talked about this yesterday. So Bill O'Reilly has lost over 40 advertisers. Bill O'Reilly has lost over 40 advertisers from the O'Reilly Factor. He's still on the air. There was an article, I think, from thehill.com, Hill, thehill.com. They have excellent political news coverage, right? His ratings have increased 25% since this information has come out about the sexual harassment lawsuits, but he's losing advertisers, all right? So you have this type of treatment of Bill O'Reilly. You have Colin Kaepernick, who hasn't killed anybody. He hadn't sexually harassed anybody. No lawsuits against him for sexual harassment, anything like this. He can't get a contract basically because he stood up for African Americans and other people of color. All right. So in the article, it says, seriously, only in America can a white man cost his company $13 million in settlement fees, yet remain employed, while a black man peacefully protests in a corner and is blackballed. But we should have seen this coming. Historically, African American athletes in the U.S. have always been punished for speaking out against injustice. When Muhammad Ali said he was a conscientious objector, and refused to be drafted into the Vietnam War, he was arrested, his title was stripped away from him, and his boxing license was revoked. He had to spend millions of dollars to fight against the U.S. government. He was out of the ring for 3.5 years. The 3.5 years that he was out of the ring were the prime boxing years of a boxer's career. The 3.5 years that Muhammad Ali was out of the boxing ring because he refused to participate in an unjust war because of his religious beliefs, because he was a minister in the Nation of Islam. Okay, he wasn't just some loudmouth, talking about white people. He was a minister in the Nation of Islam, and he was a conscientious objector. And he said this went against his religious beliefs. And he said if it came down to it, he would face machine gun fire and be executed before he fought in an unjust war. This is what Muhammad Ali said. Okay, now just like Dr. King, when Dr. King came out officially against the Vietnam War, April 4th, 1967, Muhammad Ali became vilified as well. He became one of the most hated men in America also, all right? So historically, African-American athletes in the U.S. have always been punished for speaking out against injustice, all right? So when former NBA player Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, how many people remember him? Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf refused to stand during the national anthem on religious grounds because he was a Muslim. He lost out on millions of dollars, endured death threats, and his home was burned to the ground. After Tommy Smith and John Carlos raised the Black Power salute on the podium in the 1968 Olympics, okay, in Mexico City, they were expelled from the games. They got blackballed also. And they were protesting against the poverty in America and the mistreatment of African Americans. Now, ironically, these athletes are now celebrated as trailblazers and held in the highest regard, at times even by the same people who today are vilifying Colin Kaepernick. Now, why is this? Now, this is because their protests are in the past, and what happened was their protests were somebody else's problems. Their protests were the previous generation's problems. They're no longer a problem today, so they're non-threatening. So you can embrace them even though they were vilified at the time. So, so back when the protest was really needed, when times were tougher, when black people really were mistreated, not just disproportionately targeted, and all too often killed by law enforcement. Okay, so this is what happened. We talk about we talk about Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, 1969 Chicago, Black Panther Party members. Okay, assassinated by the Chicago police. All right. We can talk about others who were set up in the counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO, August 1967, from J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI, okay, targeting those who were a threat. We can talk about Malcolm X. We can talk about Dr. King targeting those who were a threat. We can go back to the 1920s, talk about the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Even though he wasn't killed, he was set up, falsely charged for a mail fraud sentence, and extradited out of the country. All right, so to silence him and to silence the movement, because the movement Marcus Garvey had, even though there were flaws, but the movement Marcus Garvey had was the largest mass movement of African people in the history of this country. It was the largest mass movement of African people in the history of this country. All right, so if you go and look at the article from NFL.com, August 27th, 2016, that's what it was, NFL.com, I think it was. I think that's the article from Steve Weish. He's the one that broke that story about Colin Kaepernick, okay? And name of the story is, name of the article, Colin Kaepernick explains why he sat during National Anthem. Colin Kaepernick explains why he sat during National Anthem, NFL.com, August 27, 2016. And he said, I'm not going to stand up to show pride in the flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color. Okay. He said, to me, this is bigger than football, and it would be selfish on my part to look the other way. There are bodies in the street and people getting paid leave and getting away with murder. Now, Colin Kaepernick said that he is aware of what he is doing and that he knows it will not sit well with a lot of people, including the San Francisco 49ers. He said that he did not inform the club or anyone affiliated with the team of his intentions to protest the national anthem. All right. So this was the day after this article came out. I think the day after a game, because it was August 26th that the game took place. The San Francisco 49ers issued a statement about Colin Kaepernick's decision. Okay, this is back in August of last year, 2016. The national anthem is and always will be a special part of the pregame ceremony. It is an opportunity to honor our country and reflect on the great liberties we are afforded as its citizens. In respecting such American principles as freedom of religion and freedom of expression, we recognize the right of an individual to choose and participate or not in our celebration of the national anthem. We recognize the right of an individual to choose and participate or not in our celebration of the national anthem. Okay, so he was exercising his First Amendment rights also. That's the other thing that people don't understand. They want him to shut up, don't like what he's protesting about, don't understand that's protected by the First Amendment, U.S. Constitution, First Amendment. You have these people who love the Constitution but don't like the enforcement of the Constitution when they disagree with it. Check this out. You have people who love the Constitution, want to talk about the Constitution, don't like the enforcement of it when they disagree with the outcome. How was that? Okay, so August 28th, 2016, dailymail.co.uk had an article, Defiant 49er quarterback faces mounting anger as he insists he will continue to sit for the national anthem at NFL games and protest at the oppression of black people. This is a deep article by the dailymail.co.uk, August 28th, 2016. Defiant 49er quarterback Colin Kaepernick faces mounting anger as he insists he will continue to sit for the national anthem at NFL games and protest at the oppression of black people. Okay? He said, I'm going to continue to stand with the people that are being oppressed. He said, to me, this is something that has to change. When there's significant change, and I feel like that flag represent what it's supposed to represent. This country is representing people the way that it's supposed to. I'll stand. So what's interesting is how the people who attack him, the heads of the football teams, the heads of the front office, who were against his stand, they didn't focus on the fact that he said, when the flag represents what it's supposed to represent, when this country is representing people the way it's supposed to, I'll stand. So instead of people focusing on trying to change the conditions that he's calling attention to, they just want to silence him for calling attention to those conditions. But those conditions come out of white supremacy and racism. The byproduct of white supremacy and racism is white privilege. So they don't want to deal with the history of how these conditions came about. They just want to silence somebody who's speaking out and has a platform to draw attention to the conditions, because they don't want to address white privilege and white supremacy and racism. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race, coming out of the ideology of European white supremacy. Racism occurs when one race of people control the majority of the wealth, power, resources, benefits, privileges, land, access to education, access to opportunity, and they use that to marginalize, subordinate, and do harm to another race of people. Okay? Instead of addressing the conditions that he's protesting against, they just want to silence the protester. So, Francis Maxwell, in his article for the Huffington Post Black Voices, he goes on to say, Kaepernick's situation proves America still seeks to punish black protesters. That's the name of the article. Kaepernick's situation proves America still seeks to punish black protesters. All right. So he said, but what's truly remarkable is that there's no doubt Colin Kaepernick knew exactly what he was getting into, but protested anyway. He knew all too well the disdain directed at previous African-American athletes who spoke out against injustice. Look at what he's been doing all off season. Okay. Does that look like the actions of a man desperate for the phone to ring? He's not sitting around wondering why all the teams in need of a quarterback haven't dialed him up, because he is too busy providing solutions to real issues. So he donated money to Meals on Wheels after Donald Trump's horrific budget cut funding to Meals on Wheels. Okay, he teamed up with some other people and they're donating money and support to Somalia. He's helped in Chicago, Standing Rock. He's had community efforts. He had a Know Your Rights youth camp, in California. I think it was Los Angeles or Oakland. I think it was Oakland, California, late last year. Okay, he's doing some really good things, and he has caused other NFL players to want to do something and get involved as well. Okay, so while his NFL stock has slowed down, his overall objective to help marginalized groups in America has not slowed down. While his NFL stock has slowed down, his overall objective to help marginalized groups in America has not slowed down. Yet the NFL continues to turn its back on him, because to them, the only crime worse than taking a life is protesting when a black life is taken. To the NFL, the only crime worse than taking a life is protesting when a black life is taken. Because the NFL, to my knowledge, hasn't taken any stands on police misconduct, things like that, right? They haven't taken any stands on that. Now, it's interesting how you have corporations, they'll come out and take a stand against a bathroom bill in North Carolina. And this is why North Carolina just revised the bathroom bill, because they lost $3.7 billion in revenue coming into the state of North Carolina because of economic boycotts, because of corporations imposing economic boycotts and speaking out against them, because of canceled concerts, things like this. The state of North Carolina lost $3.7 billion in revenue, billion with a B. So this goes back to understanding economic withdrawal. See, Dr. King in his last speech, April 3rd, 1968, he said that we have to always anchor our external direct action with the power of economic withdrawal. Okay, those on Facebook will come to, so those on Blog Talk We have a couple callers. We'll come to you just a minute. Just hold the line. Just hold the line. We'll come to you just a minute if you have a question or comment. April 3rd, 1968, Dr. King in his last speech, Memphis, Tennessee. He said that we have to always anchor our external direct action with the power of economic withdrawal. Okay, so what this means is that when you have mass protests across the country, Black Lives Matter protests, we just saw Black Lives Matter April 4th, the 49th anniversary of Dr. King. We talked about this on the show last night. Okay, we just saw April 4th, which was Tuesday, 2017. Black Lives Matter teamed up with the Fight for 15. And they had massive protests in 24 cities across the country to draw attention to the Fight for 15, racism, etc. Right? We just talked about that last night, and we talked about it a couple of days ago as well. There was an article from Huffington Post Black Voices. More than 50 organizations unite to launch nationwide social change campaign. This article was from April 4th, 2017. More than 50 organizations unite to launch nationwide social change campaign. People who believe in freedom, justice, and the humanity of all people are the majority, and we've had enough. Okay, and they're calling their newly formed group the majority. We talked about this on last night's show. They're calling their new formed group the majority. All right, and then I first found out about this back on March 27th. There was an article from AtlantaBlackStar.com. Black Lives Matter to join forces with wage activists in Fight for 15. Black Lives Matter to join forces with wage activists in Fight for 15. But check this out, see, because there's a whole movement going on. All right. Now, a lot of people say, oh, ain't nobody doing nothing about this. Nobody doing nothing about that. Yeah, there are people doing something about it. You just may not be one of them. Yes, there are people doing something about these different issues. You may just not be one of them. The newly formed group called The Majority includes organizations like the Black Lives Matter Network, NAACP, Fight for 15, Indigenous Environmental Network, Black Youth Project, it's probably Black Youth Project 100, Dream Defenders, Asian Pacific Environmental Network, etc. It's a number of organizations came together to form this. You can, for more information, you can check out their website, beyondthemoment.org, beyondthemoment.org, beyondthemoment.org. Then there was an article from March 27, 2017, AtlantaBlackStar.com, Black Lives Matter to join forces with wage activists in Fight for 15. All right. And the name of their campaign was Fight Racism, Raise Pay. Fight Racism, Raise Pay. Okay. All right. So very quickly, before we go into the phone lines here, we're going to post this information. So we have a live international webinar coming up today at 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Okay. And you can, we're going to post a link again. You can register here. You can watch from around the world also. All right, so just give me a second here. We're going to post this, and then we'll come to some of your comments. So it's for all 4 sessions, it's $40. You can sign up and get it out of the way, do it all at one time. There was one previous session. You can go back and watch that. It's recorded. It's excellent. All of them are recorded. I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation. We have video. All of this. This is at our online school, the African History Network School. We have an online school also. Okay, or you can pay $10 per session as well. All right. So I'm getting ready to post the information again here. Post a link. Now the oppression doesn't have to continue. It's what do you do and what do you do in the face of the oppression? Okay, what do you do in the face of the oppression, Joseph Strada? This is why you have to have agendas. This is why you have to have plans. People should download the agenda from the Congressional Black Caucus, because this is an excellent one. We're going to talk about that some more on tomorrow night's show when I do my show on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the African History Network show. So people should download that. It's free to download it. I went and got it printed up. Because I didn't want to print up. It's 125 pages, and I didn't want to print that up here at home. Okay, in the office, I didn't want to print that up here. So, and that'll wear out a toner cartridge. That'll wear out a printer cartridge. So I did it. I took it to a printer, had them printed up, had them wire bound it. We're gonna talk about that some more tomorrow, because that they have an excellent agenda. Okay, they have an excellent agenda, and every African American organization in the country, every African American organization in the country, doesn't matter whether you are a block club, doesn't matter whether you're a Black Lives Matter organization, NAACP, Nation of Islam, doesn't matter what you are, there are elements in that agenda that they put together that every African American organization across the country can use to make a powerful platform, because those agendas have to be pushed not just to the president, because this is the agenda that the CBC presented to Donald Trump, Vice President Mike Pence, and he's not my president. I don't like Donald Trump. I hate Donald Trump. Everybody knows that. But this is the agenda that they presented to the Trump administration. But this has to be pushed at a local, state, and national level. It can't just be the CBC pushing the agenda, because other people don't do that. Other people push agendas from at all levels, the base, and they push it at a local, state, and national level. Okay, and if you look at what happened with the fight over the affordable health care, okay, and the Ryan plan, okay, and it was defeated. They pulled it from the House floor because they didn't have enough votes. It was because of the overwhelming backlash and the overwhelming support from masses of people for the Affordable Health Care Act, and to make it better as opposed to repealing it. But people galvanized and mobilized, and they put pressure on their members of the House of Representatives. They put pressure on the U.S. Senate, the U.S. senators. They were outside of their offices. They went to the town hall meetings, things like that. You notice when you saw those protests, you saw very few African Americans there. You notice when you saw those protests, you saw very few African Americans there. Okay. Okay, Adrian K. Stewart said, I have ideas to make action. Okay, where's your plan? Where's your website where people can go read your plan? You can download the agenda from the Congressional Black Caucus. You can download it from Roland Martin's website, rolandsmartin.com, rolandsmartin.com, or download it from the CBC, cbc.house.gov, cbc.house.gov. Okay, let's go quickly here to the phone lines. See if we can get this going. All right, hey, caller, welcome to the Michael Imhotep Show. How you doing today? Calling a 267 area code. Do you have a question or comment, or just listen to the show?
Good, brother. How are you, man?
All right, what's going on?
Good to hear your voice again, and hear you on the grind. And if I can work backwards with what you said, something that is inclusive, that you brought together the different sects of us, you know, the NOI, the different denominations of us, and I find those things to be good things, because things that are generally good for everybody are good things, you know, like water and air and truth, you know, love. These are good, generally good things. X-rated movies, you got to send the kids out of the room. It's not necessarily a good thing. Excuse me.
Okay.
My computer is doing something, but thank God for touchscreen. I just wanted to say that this is serious, you know, because it's serious because you're talking about it. One, I don't really pay attention to sports. It's not my thing, you know.
Right.
My real estate in segregation and Kaepernick, that whole situation. If you think about it, he can't have no economic withdrawal from anything now. So in the system in which he was bathed in, he's rendered absolutely powerless. Harriet Tubman,
let me ask you a question.
It's the people.
Just a second. Let me ask you a question. Now, what's your name? What's your first name? Where you from?
This is Universal Moore. I'm from Philly.
Okay. Now, why do you say that you said that he doesn't have an effect? What was that last statement you made? You said he doesn't have a voice, doesn't have an effect now?
You mentioned something about economic withdrawal earlier.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And I'm saying that in Kaepernick's situation, which you were talking about, him not being able to be signed with anybody or make any money with what he's doing, he can't economically withdraw from anything. So
why is that?
He's powerless in that system.
No, he's not powerless.
He's
He's not powerless. He's not broke. This guy's a multimillionaire, number one.
He's powerless in the system that he's bathed in.
How?
Because he can't go back and do those things because of his First Amendment right. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Let me make it short. If the people that preach the First Amendment rights are the first ones that violate your rights, like you said earlier, why speak in protest? It falls on deaf ears. Harriet Tubman did what she had to do. If he was in a position or put himself in a position, I would love to give you $10 million a year, brother. I know you could do some things with that. And I know you wouldn't mess anything up because you're going to do what you need to do with that to help your nation, your people, and I'm sure you can do some things with that. Regardless of whose face is on the money, you can do some things with that. And if you have $10 million and people are dependent upon your money and they're not listening and they're not cooperating, you can bring about an economic withdrawal of your own and make moves of your own. So the positioning is very important. And sometimes when we're out in the open, we still have to wear our Harriet Tubman. We have to wear our Harriet Tubman. Yeah, you woke up, and then you learn to keep waking up. Now you got to learn to play sleep because the enemy is at your neck. He's at your neck. So she didn't expose her plan with vocal or signifying protest, but with action. And it's time for us to come together. But it should only be for a plan of action, and it has to be all inclusive, just like you said. It has to be good for everybody.
Okay, all right, man. Thanks
for
calling.
You know what I'm saying?
Thanks for calling. Keep listening. Okay. Thanks for calling.
All right, brother.
All right.
Peace.
All right. Yeah, I encourage people to read this article because Colin Kaepernick he's still, first of all, he's still a force. He's a multimillionaire. If he invests his money right, he doesn't have to work again. If he invests his money right, he doesn't have to work again. But he was just involved with a group to donate a lot of money to Somalia. We know that late last year he had a Know Your Rights campaign for about 100 youth, African American, Hispanic youth in Oakland, California. There's a lot of good things he can do, even if he doesn't play football again. Okay, so we don't want to confuse the two issues. If you have a quick question or comment, give us a call 914-338-1375. 914-338-1375. 914-338-1375 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Also, when you call in, if you have a question or comment, press the number 1 key to put you in queue so we can bring you on the air. Also, it's important to note, see, Harriet Tubman said, I freed 1,000 slaves, but I could have freed 1,000 more if they had only known that they were slaves as well. She was dealing with the mental condition of many enslaved African people at that time. All right, let's get this other caller quickly. All right, caller, welcome to the Michael Imhotep Show. Do you have a question or comment or just listening to the show? Okay, caller, do you have a question or comment or just listening to the show? Okay, I think they're just listening. All right, so let's go back to this article quickly here. Okay, so then we got to get to this other topic, and we'll talk some about the live international webinar we're doing today, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Now, people watching on Facebook who is registered for the live webinar, you need the link again so you can register. Okay, and we'll talk about it in just a minute. Who on Facebook who's watching us, who's registered for the live international webinar we're doing today, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Okay, so he said, okay, Crystal James, I guess you're saying you need the link again. We'll post it again here. Just posted, said register for the live international webinar. Okay, Kenneth, you said you can't access the live sessions. Okay, Kenneth, why can't you access the live sessions? Let me know. Okay, Kim says she's going to. We just posted information there. All right. So in the article written by Francis Maxwell of the Young Turks for Huffington Post Black Voices, he concludes and says, so I will continue to, so what he does is he says, but what's truly remarkable is that there's no doubt Colin Kaepernick knew exactly what he was getting into, but protested anyway. He knew all too well the disdain directed at previous African American athletes who spoke out against injustice. I mean, look at what he's been doing all off season. Look at what he's been doing all off season. Does that look like the actions of a man desperate for the phone to ring? He's not sitting around wondering why all the teams in need of a quarterback haven't dialed him up, because he's busy providing solutions to real issues. Meals on Wheels, Somalia, Chicago, Standing Rock, community efforts, donations, speaking, teaching. These are all things Colin Kaepernick has done in the last few months. Now, while his NFL stock has slowed down, his overall objective to help marginalized groups in America has not slowed down. Yet the NFL continues to turn its back on him because, as I have said before, to them, the only crime worse than taking a life is protesting when a black life is taken. So I will continue to talk about this. I will continue to express my disgust at the treatment of a man whose efforts have been monumental. And until I am proved otherwise, I will continue to expose the reality that many refuse to face, that is still unacceptable for a black person in the United States of America to question a predominantly white narrative. Okay? The problem, he said, I will continue to expose the reality that many refuse to face, that it is still unacceptable for a black person in the United States of America to question a predominantly white narrative. All right? Pepsi just co-opted the whole protest movement with Kendall Jenner solving racism by giving a Pepsi to a white police officer. We talked about that on last night's show. Okay? All right. Let's see. 914. If you have a question or comment, 914-338-1375 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Okay, now, a couple ways you can listen to the show. All right. You can watch us on Facebook Live. You can listen at blogtalkradio.com/The African History Network Show. We'll post it here. We'll post the link. You can click on the link, because sometimes I know people may have limits on their data. Maybe you're watching on your cell phone. You have limits on your data. You can listen on your cell phone also. Okay, so you can call in, listen at 914-338-1375. And these shows are podcasted also. So the link I'm going to post for to listen to the show live, you can also use that same link to listen to the podcast of the show. All right. And you can call in and listen live by phone, 914-338-1375 as well. Or you can listen online through your phone, blogtalkradio.com/The African History Network Show, blogtalkradio.com/The African History Network Show. Okay, you can do that as well. All right, and then on YouTube, those on YouTube, you can also you can call in, listen by phone if you want to. 914-338-1375, 914-338-1375. All right, I want to go to this one clip here. This is from News One Now with Roland Martin, and we're going to stop the broadcast on YouTube here, so you all can tune in one of the other ways. On News One Now with Roland Martin, Roland interviewed Shannon Sharp, Whiteballed. Okay, we're going to go to that clip here in just a minute. All right, you register for it. You can go back and watch the first session in its entirety. There's some people, I don't deal with it episodically as an episode in history. Been in the land we call the United States of America, at least anthropology and archaeology, the Khoisan, we're here all throughout this land. Our study of history in slavery. Okay. All right, we're going to stop broadcasting here on, let me see something here.